Namaskar and welcome to the 10th part of the fundamental analysis. In the last part, we talked about the liabilities side of the balance sheet. From today, we will understand the asset side of the balance sheet. There are two types of assets, current assets and non-current assets. Current assets mean short-term assets, that is those which will last for less than a year and those which the company can convert into cash immediately. Non-current assets mean long-term assets, that is those assets which will stay with the company for longer than 1 year and those which the company cannot convert into cash immediately. Today, we will start with the analysis of current assets. To analyze current assets, first you will have to understand the asset cycle. Let us see what the asset cycle is. The first thing that companies do is use cash to buy raw materials. They use the raw material to make their product and then sell the product to their distributors and their customers. Sometimes, distributors don't pay for the product immediately. They pay the due amount to the company after 15 days or after 1 month. The amount that is due from the distributor becomes cash receivable for the company. When the amount is paid by the distributor, the cash receivable gets converted into cash. So, in this way, the story of the asset cycle begins with cash and ends with cash. The most important component of current assets that you have to consider is the cash and cash equivalent. Whenever a company gets into any problem, the cash and cash equivalent can be used as a bailout option. The first thing that you need to see is the source from which the cash and cash equivalent has come to the company. Generally, there are three sources of cash and cash equivalent. The first source is through the sale of shares or the issue of bonds. This amount gets added to cash and cash equivalents. The second source of addition to cash and cash equivalents is through the sale of any business or any large asset. The third source of cash and cash equivalent is that amount which is obtained through the business of the company. So, whenever you analyze cash and cash equivalent, you should pay attention to what the sources of cash and cash equivalent are. If the amount of cash and cash equivalent are coming from the business of the company, then it is a good sign. But if the cash and cash equivalent comes from the sale of any business or asset, or through the issue of shares and bonds, then you should not give as much importance to that cash and cash equivalent. Only give importance to that cash and cash equivalent which comes from the business of the company. Some companies are such that they generate a lot of cash. For example, TCS, that is Tata Consultancy Services, Warren Buffett's company Berkshire Hathaway, are companies which generate a lot of cash. When there is a company which is generating a lot of cash, you need to check what that company is doing with that cash. For TCS, the company generally distributes its cash among its shareholders. They distribute the money through the payment of dividends or share buybacks. For Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett has never paid any dividend to his shareholders or bought back any shares. He uses the entire cash amount to reinvest in the company or for expansion purposes. He also uses the cash to acquire other businesses or to invest in them. This is quite an effective option. It benefits the shareholders indirectly and the benefit is greater than other options. Another thing that you have to check here is if the company has a lot of cash and the company is using that cash to invest, then what is the method of investment? What are its strategies? Which companies is it investing in? Are the companies it is investing in worth investing in or not? Often, it so happens that the company diverts the majority of its cash to its other companies. This is why it is so important to check this thing. To check what the company is doing with its cash and where it is investing, you need to go through the non-current investments. We will cover that in the next part. Here, we can learn something important from Warren Buffett and his company Berkshire Hathaway. A few months back, Berkshire Hathaway had $111 billion, which is approximately Rs 7,65,000 crores worth of cash. The company's cash had been increasing steadily for the past few years. When Warren Buffett was asked about this cash, he said, "Currently there are no good opportunities in the market." This is why the cash is still with the company and has not been utilized yet. As soon as the opportunity arises, we will start using it. For the last 3 to 4 years, Warren Buffett has not seen any good opportunities. Because of this, the company's cash is going on increasing. This has happened to him several times in the past as well. This is indicative of how much patience he really has. Whenever we have money, we always want to invest the entire amount immediately. Most of the times, we are unable to wait. We keep looking for companies to invest in, do our analysis in a hurry, and end up making mistakes. Then later, we think we should have waited. Warren Buffett waits for the good opportunities and he does not hurry at all. From here, we can learn a lot about his patience. Here we can see in the balance sheet of ICICI Securities that apart from cash and cash equivalent, the current assets also include current investments, stock in trade, trade receivables, short-term loans and advances, and other current assets. You have to check all these items and check the note numbers which have been mentioned with them. If the company has given loans and advances for the short term, to which company has it been given? Was it the right decision to give loans and advances? You have to check all these things. In the next part, we will discuss current assets and current ratios with the help of a few examples. We will also talk about non-current assets and complete the balance sheet. So, in the next part, we will complete the balance sheet and we will start the profit and loss statement after that. We hope that you have liked this video.